2,000 members. So what we do is periodically we send them things through the mail. Now as a teenager, they're not getting solicited very often by credit card companies or other things unless you're like me and go through all the travel magazines and start asking all the states to send you information, and my mom's wondering why we've just got a mailing from Nevada and Hawaii. That was just me. I just wanted to get mail. Nobody sent me mail. So this whole concept of going back old school and going with the old US Postal can work. It's actually a phenomenal way to communicate with youth because they're not getting very much mail yet. And when it's coming from something that they care about, they like guard it. But you also have to make sure, I found out from Alex, that his family members think it's funny that when he gets something, they take it and then they don't tell him about what he just got in the mail. So he's like, I didn't get what you sent me. But just make sure that you give the heads up to your parents that something might be coming in the mail. But anyways, this was just a direct mailer introducing the concept of this campaign to members who are not actively involved. We have about, I'd say, a 20% active rate, so 6,000 sounds impressive, but when it really boils down to it, we've got about 20% of that 6,000 who actually step out, take action like the youth that you heard from. We also obviously have a Facebook presence, and we wanted to make sure our Facebook imagery, the cover art, and other things represented the imagery of Manipulicious. We also experimented this year with paid social media, and we had a little bit of extra money in a media and communications budget, so we sampled with Facebook advertisements as well as advertisements, these small little advertisements on websites that were frequented a lot by youth. And because of this, we were actually able to get more eyeballs over to our FACT website as well as to the Facebook, because we really use the Facebook page to interact on a daily basis because we're updating it on a daily basis. And then also, more recently, I don't know if any of you have ever experimented with boosting a post. If you're the owner or the admin of a page on Facebook, you're going to see something at the bottom of every one of your posts that says, do you want to, or it doesn't really say this, but it says boost, or something about the audience. And so if you click on that, you can tell Facebook, I am willing to pay you $5, Facebook, because now, unfortunately, even if you have 1,000 people who like your page, roughly 10% of them only see your page postings. Because Facebook wants to continue to make money, because Facebook started out as a free platform, right? That just had ads on the side. Well, they want groups to boost their posts and get some dollars, but for us, $5 to boost a post isn't a lot of money. And so what I've been experimenting with lately is boosting a post. So we just had our 3rd-year anniversary of Wisconsin going smoke-free. I thought that's big news. So I boosted it for $15. So instead of it reaching 100 people, which we normally get for every post that we do, because you can see that, it's kind of creepy sometimes, you kind of tell who's looking at it, how many people look at it, the analytics and everything, but it's really informative. But it tells you how many people saw that. So on average, we see about 100 people actually see our posts. By boosting it for $15, a one-time fee, we had 1,500 eyeballs that saw it. So it was I thought it was a fairly decent value. We're not boosting a post every day, but we're boosting it about once every month or so if we have something really important we want our membership to see. So boosting, something to look into. We also offered our youth members a chance to decorate their own computers at home with some branded wallpapers. We found out about a school who was able to get some permission. Oh, by the way, even though it wasn't mentioned, all of the actions that we promote to our groups, we make sure we tell our adult advisors, please work with your administration and your staff to give them the heads up that you're going to be doing these things. And if you have any concerns, please let us know and we'll modify them. That's another thing that our groups are able to do. They're able to customize these, because I don't know the intricacies of one school district versus another. They're the best ones that know their own school and their own administration as far as what is acceptable and what is okay. So as far as technical assistance and training from a staff perspective, you got to see a lot about what happened on the ground, but now I wanted just to share a little bit about what my role was through this. It wasn't just pressing play and sitting back and saying, oh wow, this is a great campaign. It was constantly trying to help and support, and I would definitely be remiss if I didn't thank all of the adult advisors that are present working day in, day out with our youth to help them develop new skills. These advocacy skills aren't necessarily naturally taught in school. I don't know too many school curriculums that have a youth write a letter to the editor, or testify in front of a joint committee, a legislative committee, or plan an activism event, implement it, get permission from a local police department to do the chalkings that Noah talked about with the stencils. It's a lot of great skills, but the adult involvement is so crucial. So my role is to support those adults and help them know what's coming, what's being communicated with the youth, so then they better can do their jobs when they're on the ground working with the youth. I feel like I'm sort of an in-between person between FACT as a whole statewide program and the youth, and I work with those adults to really bridge that gap. So adult resources were created and distributed. We also had an idea to do a youth-generated video, so we worked with Brittany's group to have their group take all of these supplies and actually mock implement them at their school after school one day. And we videotaped that and we posted it on YouTube. And then we sent out the links to all of our FACT groups so they could actually physically see how an action should be implemented and not just open up the box and say, what do we do with this? You know, what does this go with? There was instructions in there, but if you're like me, I don't really read instructions. I just open up whatever I order and I start playing with it until I figure it out. So this video really put a movement and a visual to what they were getting. And then also in addition, we were discovering that our FACT groups, some of them are incredibly motivated. And we'd send a box of supplies to them, and 2 months later I'd get a call and say, what's next? And I'm like, that was supposed to last you a year? Figure out something. I didn't say that. I thought, well, what can we actually provide them to do? Because they're eager, they want to continue actions. So I think I had heard at another conference the word evergreen. Obviously, you guys know evergreen trees, they last all year round. They don't have a dormant period where they die and regrow. Evergreens, for us, are actions that are always going to be tried and true, and they've been tested through the years. So for example, I think most of you know what a human billboard chain is, where you have big pieces of poster board, and you have maybe one word on one poster board. That doesn't make very much sense. But when you have 5 or 6 other youth that are standing next to you, now it spells out a whole sentence or a message. That's like a real old school way of getting out a message, right? Instead of having the entire message on one poster, which can be difficult to read if you're a car driving at 25 miles an hour past you. But if you're a big, huge billboard and you are doing something to get attention, which is basically standing on the sidewalk, it's going to be a lot easier to read if it's big versus all on one sheet. So that's an evergreen action. Does that make sense? Okay. So we had a whole long list of those. So that one group that called me up and said, what can we do? I sent them 30 more things to do. And then they called me back. And I told them to do the other things over again to another group of audience. That's the cool thing about these factivisms is that they can do these more than just once. It's not like, oh, I did the spot the knot, we're done. Because you could do the spot the knot with one audience, and then there's a community event, you photocopy the spot the knot cards, take the spot the knot cards to a whole other audience. Meeting with the legislator the next week, take the spot the knot cards to the legislative meeting and challenge the legislator to see how well he or she can spot the tobacco products if they're all blurred out. All right, so 2.5 years later, after the campaign started, there are some results that I'm really proud to be able to share with all of you. The first one is usually the old version of how you would measure the success of a program, right? We had X number of participants that joined. After a certain period of time, you kind of start thinking to yourself, well, did they do anything? I know that they signed up, you got them as a member, but did they do anything? So the 3,000 members is great, and our youth are the ones that are out recruiting and our adult advisors, but we find that youth-to-youth recruitment works the best, just because of that kind of peer-to-peer, more trust. But the next bullet is really what I'm super proud of, is the number of factivisms that have been completed through the life of this campaign. So again, 2.5 years, 1,600 actions. And the actions can be as simple as, hey, do you want to play Spot the Knot? Or something that's a little bit more elaborate, like Noah described, making a homemade t-shirt, takes him some time to actually make it, write the message on it, and then wearing it the next day, next week, whatever, however you wanted to wear it. But that is really impressive, and this past 6 months is the first time in the history of FACT that we've had more action, that we've had more members join. And for me, that is sort of the pinnacle of what I was hoping that would happen, is that our membership, they're strategically recruiting, but then they're becoming active right away, which is great. Then earned media, we were able to get 101 earned media hits, and that includes newspapers, television, and radio. And then also educational visits with legislators are also that crucial point, 50 educational visits. Other things that are not numbers related, this campaign, because it was so unique, Manipulicious, we were far enough away from Beyonce's song Bootylicious, so there wasn't too much confusion. But Manipulicious is sort of this word where you're like, what is it? Naturally, the first question that you ask is, what does that mean? What is it related to? So it created this kind of buzz, this excitement around the word. We increased membership involvement, like I said. The excitement with adult advisors was truly clear and evident, because I think that they got really narrow focused with making Wisconsin smoke-free, that they were just welcoming something different. Like, let's just move on. We successfully did that. What's next? And something with a lot of energy, it's high color, and there's a lot of stuff to do, and it's a unique word, I think really excited them as well. And it gave them more excitement because they could share that with you, that there was something in addition to do. And then also, it built on the momentum that was built during the period of when the youth were focused on making Wisconsin smoke-free. It continued on that momentum, and it helped those advocates develop even more skills. As with any campaign, I'd like to do a couple do-overs. These are some of them. Making sure you keep your message simple. Now, you're probably wondering, well, Luke, your campaign is called Manipulicious. That isn't really super simple, but I think the simplicity of it is that it's one word, and that the word is a combination of two words that with a little bit of explanation can easily be understood. It's just manipulate and delicious thrown together. And that if a youth is wondering, if they freeze up and they wonder, what am I supposed to say? I'm being interviewed. Manipulicious. Manipulate, the tobacco industry is trying to manipulate you with candy flavors, right? And so that hopefully it would help them remember what to say. The evergreens, having those ready in case the groups are super ambitious and they get done early. Include multiple action categories. Now this satisfies those youth that may be a little bit more introverted or shy. We gotta have something for them to do, because they're not gonna be the hams of the group and be willing to stand in front of legislators or other youth giving presentations or approaching a stranger. That can be very freaky. It's freaky for me, and I can only imagine what it would be like for someone who is, 13, 18. It can be a little freaky, but you do have those people that are randomly willing to go up to someone that's completely a stranger and say, hey, do you want to play a game? I'm not trying to be creepy, but this is the game I'd like for you to play. It's related to the work that I do. But yeah, so making sure that you have visual things that people can see. One-on-one, to give those people the opportunity who are a little bit more outgoing, or challenge those who are like on the cusp of getting more confidence, challenge them with simple one-on-one actions to give them more confidence. And then things that can go viral, right? Things that have the ability to spread quickly, like the message. Don't forget about your adult advisors. They can be your incredible allies and awesome advocates in the field, making it more exciting for the youth to get involved. We find that our adult advisors that are clearly identified, that have excitement in their voice when they go and meet with the youth, their youth groups are oftentimes a lot more engaged and involved and active because of that strong adult advising. And then the last one, make sure that you can handle the amount of work, that the amount of things that you're creating before you actually do them. When we first started this, we got in a little bit over our heads. In fact, as far as the staff goes, it's me and another full-time staff person for the entire state. So when we had this sort of Ferrari-like campaign, my staff person and I needed to take a step back and really kind of figure out, okay, here's our year, here's how we're going to tackle it. And after we did that and realized that we could call on the help of others and they were willing to do that, we've got some adult advisors in the audience who were very helpful in that process, we started to catch up to that big Ferrari engine and traded our Honda Fit in for an actual Ferrari body. The cool part about Manipulicious that I'm really happy to share with all of you today, besides